Hi, I'm Catherine from KatherineLearnsStuff. Today I want to walk you through how to restore a canvas from this to this. So let's jump in. So my kids like to do lots of painting, and after a while they're tired of the paintings being on the wall and we are done with those canvases. I always feel bad for throwing them out, so I wanted to go through a quick tutorial here on how to repurpose these old canvases. So let's take a look at what we need. For this project, the supplies that we need are, we need some paint. Now, I suggest a better quality paint, like a primer that you would use at your house for painting. You're also going to need a paintbrush, obviously, for painting. And then I recommend sandpaper. You can either use a sanding block or just regular sandpaper to rub the top of the canvases with. Once you have your canvas ready, the first thing that you want to do is you want to sand it. Now, you don't need to use a lot of pressure for this, but you do want to have some pressure so that if the paint that's on there currently has bumps and imperfections on it, you can sand those off. My kids like to use a lot of glitter when they were painting, and so there's glitter on the canvases. When you are trying to work with glitter, I recommend that you try to gently remove as much glitter as possible. You might not be able to get it all off depending on how it got applied, like if you used Mod Podge or if it just went on top of the paint. There will be a difference of how to get it off, but try to get as much glitter off as you can if you have any. If you're finding it hard to sand the canvas because it pushes in when you're pressing on it, you can place it on top of books or cardboard that fills in the gap behind the canvas to keep it steady. Once you're happy with your sanding, it's time to start painting. You will probably need at least 2 coats of paint to cover the existing paint that's on your canvas. In my case, some of them needed to be painted 3 times just because of how much color was on the canvas, and my kids decided to use Sharpies on the canvas as well, which do not cover very well with primer. In between paint coats, I like to wrap my paintbrush in cellophane just to keep it moist so that I don't need to wash it every time, and that helps me get the project done a little bit faster with a little bit less cleanup. When I started this project out, I was feeling lazy and I didn't want to go and look for my primer. And so I had a bunch of spare white paint from just my regular craft projects that I do. And what I did was I started to cover the canvases in 2 different types of paint. I used cheap dollar store white acrylic paint to cover some up. And I also used my Craftmate acrylic paint that I use for most of my craft projects. In this example here, you can see on the one side of the screen, after going 2 coats of paint, you can still see the images through the white almost completely with the dollar store brand, and then with the Craftmate brand after 2 coats it's a little bit less visible, but in the light you can actually see it pretty decently as well. So those 2 paints didn't do a great job of covering the designs that were behind the paint. So after that I switched to using my primer paint for this instead. I wanted to quickly review this canvas with you. This is the one that had a lot of glitter on it, and you can still see here that there's like glitter bits all over it. This canvas probably had 7 or 8 coats of paint put on top of it. The glitter actually started to bleed through and it was like turning pink and orange all over the place. So it took a lot of coats of paint. So in the future, just for myself and for yourself, if you're ever having to repurpose a canvas that has glitter, I recommend really trying to get as much glitter off as you can. Mine was put on with Mod Podge, so it didn't come off easily. I probably could have used a heat gun to sort of release the Mod Podge a bit and try to get more glitter off. But for the purposes of reusing this canvas at my house with my kids, it's gonna be good. So I've repurposed these canvases. They're all nice and white and they're ready to go back into my pile of canvases so that the kids can paint over them again. Hopefully they're good enough. For me, some of them were harder to clean than others. They had a lot more paint and a lot more items to hide. It took probably 3 or 4 coats of primer to get them all covered white, but now I think they're good enough to put back into circulation. And there we have it. Now we have a whole bunch of white canvases that we can reuse for painting. Now I want to point out, I don't like to paint over previously made projects, but my kids like to paint a lot, and so I have a lot of canvases that have just been used for 1 or 2 colors and then they give up on the project. So I don't like to throw those canvases out and I like to reuse them. But sometimes even my own projects need to be reused. So that's how we came across figuring out how to clean up our canvases and get them usable again. Thanks so much for watching, and let me know if you've tried this out. If you have, leave a note in the comments below and tell me how it turned out. Thanks so much for watching, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Happy crafting!